the Oklahoman newsroom, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson here with OSU beat writer Scott Wright. Scott, for all we know, Mike Gundy might be searching the interwebs for somebody playing with Legos for his next offensive coordinator. We don't really know who it might be at this point, but we can at least talk about how Mike Gundy might go about structuring the offensive staff. He's always had an offensive coordinator, singular, no pass game coordinator, run game coordinator. What's your best guess about how could things change? Could he maybe look at a different way of doing things?
He absolutely could. One thing that we know is not going to change is the offense. He did this with Mike Yurcich when he brought him in. For all the respect that he had for what Mike Yurcich was doing, he kept the offense the same, kept the terminology the same, so that the players didn't get lost in all the transition to new terminology and new hand signals and all those things that come along with a new offensive coordinator. Instead, they taught what they were doing to Yurcich, and then he adapted his ideas into that. That worked really well. It had gone really well in previous transitions. So that will be the thing that stays the same. Obviously, a new coordinator, if it comes from the outside, that guy's going to have some different ideas and different ways of doing things, and that's going to be implemented into the offense. But the offense itself is going to stay the same. That leaves the question of what does Gundy do? Does he promote from within and stick to that continuity theme that he was talking up really strongly out in Memphis before the Liberty Bowl game, or does he go ahead and step outside, bring in somebody that he's familiar with, but might not be the long-term solution that he sort of hinted at? It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see which of those paths he wants to travel.
Well, and there's been no pass game coordinator, run game coordinator in the past, and he's always, to my recollection, had his offensive coordinator be his quarterback coach. So if they did promote from within and maybe do the pass game, run game coordinator, he'd have to hire a quarterback's coach, I'm guessing. Is that right? Yeah,
absolutely. You don't want to take Josh Henson, Josh Henson and Casey Dunn would be the only two real candidates for that promotion, I think. You don't want to take Josh Henson away from coaching offensive line, which he's done his entire career. When he was offensive coordinator at Missouri, he coached offensive line and still made that work just fine. Casey Dunn is a standout wide receiver coach and recruiter. You don't want to take him out of that element, and you don't want a guy who's never coached quarterbacks coaching your quarterbacks in an offense where quarterback play is so central to everything that you do. So that leaves you looking for a potential quarterback coach if you promote either Henson or Dunn. And that's where things get a little bit more murky, not necessarily in a bad way, but the options for a quarterback coach are a lot broader than they would be for an established offensive coordinator. There are a lot of different directions. OSU fans have been throwing around names like J.W. Walsh or Zach Robinson or Bodie Reeder, a little-known guy who was Mike Yurcich's grad assistant and helped him coach quarterbacks. Now he's the offensive coordinator at Eastern Washington and doing a great job in the FCS level. So some names like that have been floating around as a potential quarterback coach to come in. But it'll all depend on which direction Mike Gundy wants to go. Does he want to bring in an outside offensive coordinator or promote from within?
I knew at the beginning, I said we don't know who, but let's talk about who might be out there, because this idea of does he go and try to find somebody unknown like he did last time with Mike Yurcich, maybe from a lower level or from a group of five or something like that team. Or does he hire a more known commodity? Jeff Monken's out there. Todd Monken's out there. Sorry, Jeff, his cousin at Army. Whole different offense. Don't think they're hiring Jeff Monken. Todd Monken is out there. Two vastly different, sort of parts of that spectrum, Scott. It sounds like Gundy will likely go with what he's done in the past as far as offensive coordinator, being the quarterback's coach, being that central one person. That's a pretty wide spectrum of where Mike Gundy might be looking for that next guy.
Yeah, it really is. Todd Monken, I think, is the name to keep an eye on. He's the guy that when he was at Oklahoma State for those 2 years in 11 and 12, before Yurcich came in, he was a guy that Mike Gundy got along with really well, who ran the offense really well. He understands sort of how Gundy thinks and what he wants to do offensively. So I think that he's the first name to keep an eye on. Now, playing into that factor is the fact that he just interviewed with the Packers, the ones in Green Bay. with Aaron Rodgers and all those guys. So he's got some serious other options on the table. At least 3 NFL teams have interviewed him or will interview him for their head coaching jobs. And you've got to think that if none of those work out, there are going to be some other NFL teams that would like to have him as their offensive coordinator. So if he wants to stay in the pros, he's going to have his options. He was at Tampa Bay, a staff that just got wiped out and fired down there, but had a lot of success at the quarterback position with some guys who haven't typically been great quarterbacks at the NFL level. So that's going to throw some wrinkles in things. That's when I think if he ends up somewhere else, that's when you start looking at the guys internally. Either Henson or Dunn. Then you've got some other guys out there that could emerge. Graham Harrell's name has been mentioned in a couple of reports. The North Texas offensive coordinator, former Texas Tech quarterback. Some guys like that whose names are circulating around there. But I think that the white whale out there for Gundy right now is Todd Monken, and we'll see what happens with him and his NFL pursuits.
All right, lots yet to be determined about Oklahoma State's hunt for its next offensive coordinator. We'll continue to cover it all angles as we hone in on that decision. Last time Mike Gundy hired an offensive coordinator, though, it didn't come till February. So hoping we have some resolution before then. We'll let you know when we do. So be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere, newsok.com, and every day in the Oklahoman.